I was kneeling by the rose bushes when I heard the car pull into the driveway. The sound of expensive German engineering on gravel. It was a Thursday afternoon in late September, and the Connecticut sun was doing that thing it does in autumn, where everything looks like an oil painting. I wasn't expecting anyone. My wife Sarah had planted these roses 17 years ago. Pink Peace, she called them. She was gone now, 2 years and 4 months. But the roses kept blooming. I kept tending them. It gave me something to do with my hands while my mind worked. The car doors slammed. 2 of them. I didn't look up immediately. I was conducting what I'd come to call my final review. The garden. The house behind me. The water view beyond the property line. All of it. I wanted to remember it exactly as it was in this moment. Dad? I stood slowly. My knees aren't what they used to be, but I'm not decrepit. 64 isn't ancient, despite what my daughter was about to suggest. I turned and saw Rachel walking across the lawn in heels that were sinking into the soft ground. Marcus followed a few steps behind, his tie loosened, his face wearing that expression investment bankers use when they're about to pitch something. Rachel. Marcus. I pulled off my gardening gloves. This is unexpected. Can we talk inside? Rachel's voice had that careful tone doctors use with difficult patients. She'd been a pediatrician for 12 years. She was good at it. Patient. Kind. At least, she used to be. Of course. I led them through the back door into the kitchen. Sarah's kitchen, though I tried not to think of it that way anymore. The afternoon light came through the bay windows and made patterns on the hardwood floor. I'd refinished that floor myself, 30 years ago, when Rachel was still in elementary school. Coffee? I asked. Dad, sit down. Rachel pulled out a chair at the kitchen table. The oak table. Another thing I'd built with my own hands. I sat. Marcus positioned himself near the doorway, like he was blocking an exit. Maybe he was. Rachel opened her bag and pulled out a folder. Not a medical file. Something else. She slid it across the table toward me. We need to talk about this house. I didn't touch the folder. What about it? Dad, you're alone here. It's almost 4,000 square feet. The property taxes alone are killing you. I can afford my property taxes. Can you? Marcus spoke for the first time. His voice had that edge that comes from working on Wall Street too long. Everything's a negotiation. Everything's a deal. Because from where we're sitting, it looks like you're asset rich and cash poor. I smiled. I couldn't help it. Is that your professional assessment, Marcus? It's reality. He moved into the room now, taking the chair across from me. You're on a fixed income. This house is appreciating. But you can't eat appreciation. You can't pay for healthcare with potential equity. Rachel leaned forward. Dad, we're worried about you. There it was. The opening move. I'd been expecting it for 6 months. Ever since I'd accidentally overheard a phone conversation Rachel thought I couldn't hear. She'd been in the guest room upstairs, and the vent carried sound better than she realized. Worried about what? Specifically, you're forgetting things. Rachel's doctor voice was fully engaged now. Last month you missed Dr. Henderson's appointment. I rescheduled it. You left the stove on overnight 3 weeks ago. Once. In 30 years of living here, I left the stove on once. The kettle burned dry. No fire. No emergency. Marcus tapped the folder. Rachel's not wrong to be concerned. At your age, these little things can be early indicators. Indicators of what? The word hung in the air between us. Rachel wouldn't say it. She was too smart for that. But Marcus had no such restraint. Cognitive decline. Early onset dementia. Look, Thomas, nobody wants to have this conversation. But we're family. We need to think about your safety. I folded my hands on the table. My wedding ring caught the light. I'd never taken it off. Not even after Sarah died. And you think I'm unsafe here? Not yet. Rachel reached across and put her hand on mine. Her hand was cold. But Dad, we want to be proactive. Marcus and I have been talking, and we think the best solution is for you to sign over the house to us. We'll handle the property management, the taxes, all of it. You can stay here as long as you want, but legally, it'll be protected. Protected from what? From creditors. From medical bills if something happens. She paused. From you making a decision you might regret later. When things get worse. I let the silence stretch. Outside, a boat horn sounded from Long Island Sound. Someone was heading in before the sun set. Smart sailor. And if I don't want to sign over my house? Rachel and Marcus exchanged a look. They'd rehearsed this part. Then we'll have to explore other options, Marcus said. For your own protection. Such as? A competency evaluation. Rachel's voice dropped. If a medical professional determines you're not capable of managing your affairs, the court can appoint a conservator. It's better if we handle this as a family, Dad. Better if you choose to do this willingly. There it was. The ultimatum delivered with medical terminology and concern. Sign over the house, or they'd try to have me declared incompetent. My own daughter. Meters, my daughter, my son-in-law who'd never liked me. Not from the day Rachel brought him home. I stood up. I need to think about this. Dad, I'm not refusing. I'm not agreeing. I'm saying I need to think about it. I looked at Rachel. Really. Looked at her. When had she become this person? This is a big decision. Surely you can give me a few days. Marcus started to object, but Rachel stopped him with a hand on his arm. Of course. We're not trying to pressure you. We just want what's best. I know what you want, I said quietly. Give me until Monday. They left 10 minutes later. I watched from the window as Marcus's Mercedes backed out of the driveway. His face red. Even from this distance, Rachel wouldn't look at the house. When they were gone, I walked to my study and opened my laptop. I'd been preparing for this moment for 6 months. Ever since that overheard phone call. Ever since I'd started noticing things. Little things. Rachel asking about the house value. Marcus's questions about my retirement accounts. The way they'd both suddenly gotten interested in my health, my memory, my ability to live independently. I'd been a high school principal for 32 years. I knew how to recognize patterns. I knew how to investigate, and I knew how to keep records. I opened the file I'd labeled documentation and began my final review. The first entry was from 8 years ago. A call from Rachel. Dad, Marcus's startup needs capital. Can you loan us $40,000? We'll pay you back in 6 months. The loan was never repaid. 3 years later. Dad, we're buying a bigger house. Can you help with the down payment? $25,000. We'll pay you back when we sell the old place. The old place sold. The money never came back. Smaller amounts over the years. $2,000 here. $5,000 there. Always with a promise. Always with a reason. Rachel's medical school debt. Marcus's investment opportunity. The roof. The car. Always something. Total. $67,412. I had every check. Every bank record. Every text message where Rachel promised next month. Dad. I swear, but that wasn't the worst part. 6 weeks ago, I'd hired a private investigator. Not because I'm paranoid. Because I'm thorough. Because something felt wrong. And after teaching teenagers for 3 decades, I've learned to trust that feeling. The PI's report sat in the folder now. 43 pages of documentation. Marcus wasn't just an investment banker. He was a gambler. Poker. Blackjack. Online betting. He had accounts with 7 different casinos in Connecticut and Massachusetts. The debt was substantial. $340,000 substantial. And Rachel knew. The report included a recorded phone call, perfectly legal in Connecticut's one-party consent state, where Rachel told her friend Susan that they were drowning and needed a solution. The solution was my house. My phone buzzed. A text from David Sterling, my attorney. For the past 30 years, we'd been friends since college. He'd handled Sarah's will when she died. He'd handled everything since. Ready for Monday? The text read. I typed back. Ready. The rest of Thursday, I spent in the garden. Friday, I played golf with my old teaching colleagues. Saturday, I had lunch with my sister Margaret in Hartford. Life continued as normal, as if my daughter hadn't just threatened to have me declared incompetent, as if my son-in-law's gambling addiction wasn't about to destroy what was left of our family. Sunday evening, Rachel called. "Dad, have you thought about it?" "I have." "And? Let's meet tomorrow. 10 a.m. We can discuss the details." "At the house?" "No." I looked at the address David had texted me. At 1247 Atlantic Avenue. Suite 300. David's office. Silence. "You called your lawyer?" "Rachel, you offered me a legal document to sign." "Of course I consulted my lawyer." "Surely that's the responsible thing to do." More silence. "Fine. We'll be there." Monday morning was clear and cold, the kind of October day where you need a jacket but don't want one. I dressed carefully. Navy suit, white shirt, red tie. The principal's uniform, the outfit I'd worn to every board meeting, every difficult parent conference, every moment when I needed to project authority. David's office was on the third floor of a building overlooking the harbor. The waiting room had leather chairs and law books that might or might not be decorative. Rachel and Marcus were already there when I arrived, 15 minutes early. They'd beaten me by 20. Thomas. David emerged from his inner office, hand extended. He was 68, gray-haired, with the kind of calm demeanor that made clients trust him immediately. "Please, everyone, come in." His conference room had a table that sat 12. Only 4 chairs were pulled out. David took the head. I sat to his right, Rachel and Marcus across from us. "I appreciate everyone coming in," David began. He had a folder in front of him, thicker than the one Rachel had brought to my house. "Thomas called me Thursday evening and outlined the situation. I've prepared some documents." "We've already prepared documents," Marcus said. He slid his own folder across the table. "All Thomas needs to do is sign." David didn't touch it. "I'm afraid it's not that simple." "Why not?" Rachel's voice had an edge now. The careful doctor tone was slipping. "Because before we discuss any transfer of property, we need to address some outstanding financial matters." David opened his folder. "Thomas has provided me with documentation of several loans made to you and your husband over the past 8 years. Loans that, according to these records, have never been repaid." Rachel's face went white. "Those weren't loans. They were gifts." "Do you have that in writing?" David asked mildly. "He's our father. We didn't think." "The checks say loan in the memo line," I said quietly. "Every single one." Marcus leaned forward. "This is absurd. You're nickel and diming your own daughter? $340,000, David said. Everyone froze. "I'm sorry?" Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. "That's the total amount we're discussing," David continued. $67,412 in documented loans to you and your husband, plus interest at Connecticut's legal rate of 8% for personal loans, compounded over 8 years. He slid a spreadsheet across the table. $340,106, give or take. The number was intentional. The exact amount of Marcus's gambling debt. I'd made sure of that. Marcus stood up. "This is..." "Sit down, Marcus." Rachel's voice was sharp. "Just sit down." He sat. She looked at me. Really looked at me. Maybe for the first time in years. "Dad, what is this?" "This is the conversation we should have had on Thursday," I said. "Before you threatened me with a competency evaluation. Before you tried to take my house. We weren't trying to take. You were drowning," I said simply. "Marcus's gambling debts. The casino accounts. The secret meetings with bankruptcy lawyers. I know, Rachel. I know all of it." Her hands started shaking. "How? Does it matter?" I leaned back in my chair. "What matters is that you thought the solution was to take my house. To have me declared incompetent. To put me in a home somewhere while you sold the property I've lived in for 37 years. We never said. You said, other options. You said, competency evaluation. Do you think I don't know what that means? I kept my voice level, calm, the way I'd spoken to parents who came into my office angry, ready to fight, needing someone to simply lay out the facts. You're a doctor. Rachel, you understand the legal implications of what you were suggesting. She was crying now, silent tears running down her face, smudging her mascara. We didn't know what else to do. You could have asked me for help. We did. We've been asking for years. No. You've been taking for years. There's a difference. I nodded to David. He pulled out another document. Thomas came to me 6 months ago, about the same time he began to suspect what was happening. We've taken several steps since then. The house is sold, I said. The words hung in the air like a physical thing. Rachel's face went from white to gray. What? I sold it 3 weeks ago. To a developer who's been trying to buy waterfront property in this area for 5 years. I got fair market value. Actually, I got more than fair market value. $2.9 million. The sale closes this Friday. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. You can't do that! I can, and I did. It's my house. My name on the deed. I'm competent. I'm of sound mind. And the buyer's attorneys verified all of it. I looked at Rachel. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. But you gave me no choice. Where will you live? Her voice was small. I've rented a condo in the village. 2 bedrooms, water view. It's smaller, more manageable for an old man living alone. I let that last part sting. Let her hear her own words reflected back. And the money? The money is mine to do with as I choose. Dad, please. Rachel was fully crying now, mascara running black down her cheeks. We need help. Marcus's situation. The banks are going to. We could lose everything. You already lost everything, I said quietly. You lost it when you decided I was an obstacle instead of your father. David cleared his throat. There is, however, one outstanding matter. The loans. We can't pay that, Marcus said flatly. You know we can't. Then we have a problem, David replied. Because Thomas would prefer not to take this to court. But he will if necessary. Court? Rachel looked stricken. Dad, you'd sue us? I'd sue you to recover money you legally owe me. Yes, but you're selling the house for $3 million. You don't need. Need has nothing to do with it. I leaned forward. You came to my house and threatened me. You suggested I was incompetent. You plotted to take everything I've built. Everything your mother and I built together. And use it to pay for Marcus's gambling addiction. Tell me, Rachel. Tell me, honestly, what would you have me do? She had no answer. David let the silence stretch for 30 seconds. Then, Thomas has authorized me to offer a compromise. You repay the principal amount $67,412 within 90 days, and he'll forgive the interest. We don't have $67,000, Marcus said. Then I suggest you find it. Sell Rachel's car. Liquidate your retirement account. Get a second mortgage on your house if the bank will still give you one. David's voice was cold now. Or Thomas files suit, puts a lien on your property, and you're explaining to a judge why you didn't repay loans from your father-in-law while simultaneously trying to declare him incompetent. We were never going to. Rachel started. I have the consultation emails with the attorney you contacted, I said. Dr. Patricia Morrison. She specializes in conservatorship cases. You asked her about uncooperative elderly parents and establishing diminished capacity. Would you like me to have David subpoena those emails? Rachel put her head in her hands. Marcus stood up again. Come on, Rachel. We don't have to listen to this. Yes, you do, I said. Because in 91 days, if I don't have my $67,000, I'll add you to my list of defendants in the lawsuit. You, personally. The gambling debts are in your name, Marcus. The casino records are clear, and when the court starts examining your finances, they're going to find some very interesting things. His face went red, then purple. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. There's a difference. I stood up too. We were the same height. but I had 3 decades of facing down angry teenagers and their angrier parents. Marcus flinched first. You tried to take my home. You manipulated my daughter. You bet and lost, literally, and thought you could use my assets to cover your mistakes. But here's what you didn't count on. I'm not senile. I'm not weak. And I'm not going to let you destroy what's left of my family. I turned to Rachel. I love you. I've loved you from the day you were born. I helped pay for medical school because I believed in you. I helped with down payments and emergencies because that's what fathers do. But somewhere along the way, you started seeing me as a resource instead of a person. And when I became inconvenient, you decided to have me removed. Dad, 90 days, I said. $67,412. David will send you the payment instructions. I walked to the door. David followed. Thomas, wait. Rachel's voice stopped me. Where are you going? I have a lunch appointment, I said. With the director of the Sarah Hartley Scholarship Fund. What's that? Your mother's name. The scholarship is for students who want to become teachers but can't afford college. It's fully funded now. $2.5 million. It'll put 20 kids through state school every year, forever. I looked back at her. Your mother would have liked that. She always said teaching was the most important job in the world. Rachel was openly sobbing now. You gave away everything? Not everything. I kept enough to live on, enough to be comfortable, enough to make sure I never have to depend on someone who sees me as a burden. I walked out. David caught up with me in the hallway. You okay? I'm fine. That was brutal. It needed to be. He nodded. The scholarship is a good thing. Sarah would be proud. I hope so. We rode the elevator down in silence. In the parking garage, David paused. You know, they might never pay you back. I know. You know Rachel might never speak to you again. I know that too. Was it worth it? I thought about that. About the house I'd just sold. About the garden I'd never tend again. About the daughter who'd tried to take it all away. Ask me in a year, I said, but I already knew the answer. 3 months later, I got a check in the mail. $67,412. The memo line was blank. No note. No apology. Just a cashier's check from a bank in Hartford. I deposited it and donated it to the scholarship fund the same day. Sarah Hartley Memorial Scholarship for Future Teachers. It would send 2 more kids to college every year. 2 more chances for someone to make a difference the way Sarah had. Rachel sends a Christmas card now. Nothing else. No calls. No visits. The card has a generic message, and both their signatures. Marcus's handwriting is shaky. I heard through Margaret that he's in therapy. That Rachel made it a condition of staying married. That they're rebuilding. I hope they are. I'm rebuilding too. The condo is nice. Smaller. Yes. But I didn't need 4,000 square feet. I planted roses on the balcony. Pink peace, the same kind Sarah loved. They're doing well. On Thursdays, I volunteer at the high school I used to run. I help students with college applications. I write recommendation letters. I tell them about the scholarship fund, about the opportunities out there for kids who want to teach. Some of them ask why I'm helping, why I care. I tell them the truth. Because someone helped me once. Because that's what we do. We help each other. We build things that last longer than we do. We create opportunities for people we'll never meet. That's what Sarah understood. That's what I hope, someday, Rachel will understand too. Until then, I have my roses. I have my purpose. I have my dignity. I have everything that matters.